Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a new Jason Reitman film called Saturday Night. And what this film essentially is it's about the first broadcast that's ever been done on TV for Saturday Night Live, the TV show. And it's about kind of the journey that took place to get that first broadcast up and going, how it was very chaotic. NBC almost pulled it from this Lorne Michaels, who was the creator of the show. There was a bunch of things that happened that almost didn't allow us to have the Saturday Night Live that we now know and love. And so this entire film is essentially the night of the broadcast, and the couple hours leading into the broadcast, of just kind of how nightmarish it was, how chaotic it was, how things weren't going right, how certain people didn't like costume design that they had to deal with, how there were certain skits and certain scenarios they had to deal with on that first broadcast that certain celebrities weren't comfortable doing. And so this entire film is essentially that one night leading into that broadcast and what exactly took place to give us that first broadcast that we ever had of Saturday Night Live, and how it eventually became the comedy classic show that we now know and love today, and how it eventually started the comedy careers of a bunch of actors and actresses that we now have today and have had over the past several decades in film as well. But overall, guys, I enjoyed Saturday Night. I thought it was a good movie. I liked kind of how it was chaotic in a fun way. Jason Reitman's, done a bunch of stuff that I liked before. Like I liked Young Adult and Juno and Ghostbusters Afterlife and a bunch of other stuff that he's been attached to over the years. And his father's done a lot of stuff too. Ivan Reitman's done a lot of films that I've really enjoyed as well. So it was kind of interesting to see him do this whole Saturday Night Live story and film. But I liked kind of how chaotic the whole film was. It was chaotic in a fun way. It really did show kind of how frustrating that first night was, ever doing a Saturday Night Live broadcast like that, and just how much work went into getting this thing off the ground. And but overall, it's a fun film, but it's one of those things where it's not going to be for everybody. So I do want to go over some positives and negatives as to why I enjoyed this film, but why it might not be for everybody either. So for my positives of Saturday Night, it does capture the chaos in this moment in history of the Saturday Night Live broadcast, the very first one, and it really does capture just how much work this Lorne Michaels had to do, getting people on board, hiring people at the last minute to do rewrites on stuff, how certain props weren't working, how they had to literally assemble this like brick floor of real bricks, and they had to do it right up until the actual broadcast took place. There's hiring, getting people off the street to be the audience. Even that was a task at first because nobody knew what Saturday Night Live was and things like that. And even small stuff like Lorne Michaels had his wife as a producer on the show. Even small things like crediting, does she really want to have her last name and his last name on the closing credits of the show and stuff like that. So just a bunch of chaos that this Lorne Michaels had to deal with. He played by Gabriel LaBelle from The Fabelmans, for those who might have saw The Fabelmans. The film does capture the chaos of this moment in history really well. Overall, too, I thought the costume design and overall visual look of the film was also extremely impressive. I liked how it really did feel like, because I think the first broadcast was in 1975, I want to say. And it really does show kind of the overall, 70s look. It really they almost kind of went out of their way to make sure even the cameras reflected kind of how television screens look like on a 1970s television. And just the overall look, it felt like something out of the 70s. It did feel like something that we were watching this moment in time because, everything was really kind of examined to really make it look like it was something out of the 70s that they were, finding the costumes for and things like that too. So even the overall costume design and the overall visual look, I thought were very impressive for this film. And overall, this is just a really fun time of a movie with a bunch of comedic moments. There's just a lot of times where there are a couple of moments where the characters kind of step back, reflect, or let another character know exactly what's going through their head as all this chaos is going on. There's also just a lot of times too where the celebrities who are a part of Saturday Night Live, we get to see kind of their breaks and what they were doing before the broadcast happened and kind of how they were coping with the madness and stuff like that. And so there is a lot of times where these celebrities that we all know and love, they're these actors and actresses playing are these beloved celebrities, have little fun little comedic moments throughout the film as well. Overall, too, I liked how the film spent a lot of time with Lorne Michaels. It really was about his adventure getting this broadcast off the ground. It really did show kind of what he had to do to, get the show up and going. How he got people, on board to do it because he was the creator of the show, and so he didn't really have a lot of like specific details as to exactly what the show was. So throughout the movie, he's always kind of having to improvise what exactly Saturday Night Live is going to be, what the rest of the season's going to look like if they don't keep it on air for another season. So there's just a bunch of stuff that he had to deal with as far as only having some small snippets of ideas, but not full blown ideas to get it off the ground. And so now that he is getting it off the ground, all these producers and advertisers and sponsors, they want to know as much as possible about the show because it's on the air and it's their money and all this other stuff. So I like how the film really did capture how this is Lorne Michaels' story and how it really kind of captured the perspective of what he was going through while this entire first night broadcast was taking place. My next point really isn't a positive or a negative. It's just kind of something important to go into this film knowing. The film is intentionally chaotic, so it is one of those films where it doesn't really give you a lot of time to breathe necessarily. It is intentionally chaotic. It really does show that this was the last couple hours leading into the broadcast. So for those who really might feel that they might get annoyed by that, go into this film knowing it's almost an entire film about that. So it is almost 2 full hours of this intentional chaos that really is kind of intended to be frustrating, intended to be like in your face and how annoying certain things were. So I like how the film was chaotic and it really did show how this moment in history played out. But for those who might be annoyed by that, unfortunately, one of the negatives I have with the film was it does feel intentionally chaotic. It does feel like it's almost kind of trying to get on your nerves at some point. So for those who might feel they might be annoyed by that, just go into this film knowing that this film very much feels like that. But for my negatives of Saturday Night, the movie, unfortunately, there's not a lot of time spent with character development. I know with a story like this, it's very hard to pull that off. But there's like small things they could have done. They could have done, I don't know, like maybe the opening of the film could have been like little mock skit of what Saturday Night Live is known to be, and how Lorne Michaels is pressured, and they could have done like a laugh track or something. But because the way the film opens, like it really is just kind of all the presenters and celebrities from Saturday Night Live doing like a little news anchor skit thing, and then they go right into the opening credits and then right into the movie. So there's just a bunch of things that they didn't really do as far as developing characters as the story went along that I think they could have done a better job with. So I thought that aspect of the story could have been better handled. So I wish more time could have been spent with characters, and characters could have developed over the story rather than just having the same characters from point A all the way to point Z at the end of the movie. I also thought more time could have just been spent on the actual TV show broadcast itself. It really felt like the film had more to say. It ends on kind of a note where you kind of get the impression that there was more to be said from Lorne Michaels' perspective as how the broadcast went and things like that. Because it does stop kind of right at the beginning of the broadcast. I don't know if that's kind of when everything was kind of going fine at that point. Because the film really is about leading up to that broadcast. So I thought that aspect of the story could have been explored a little bit more as, what exactly went on during the broadcast, what was going on through Lorne Michaels' head after all that chaos he went through to get the show off the ground. So I thought that aspect of the story could have been better handled as well. And like I mentioned before, I really think the film could have opened at a stronger situation. Either open at an earlier point in time, like maybe leading up, maybe start with Lorne Michaels leaving whatever home he was at the time, going into the studio, because they start right where he's at the studio, right where he's already punched in and all this other stuff. And I just felt they could have done. There's just more information I felt that I needed to have the whole satisfying experience that I needed. So I thought opening at an earlier point in time could have potentially resolved some of that. And like I said, doing like a little mock skit or something at the beginning, I thought what could have been a more clever way to really kind of get us inside the mind of some of these characters right away. So I thought that could have been better handled as well. So for overall, I'm going to give Saturday Night an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a really well made movie. It's intentionally chaotic in a good way. Um, like I said, do go into it knowing that it is kind of intentionally chaotic. It is trying to kind of get on your nerves at some point intentionally. And like I said, there is not a lot of time with character development. More time with the actual broadcast itself, I think, could have helped it. And I think opening at an earlier point in the timeline of this event also would have helped the film as well, getting us some more information as to what was going on and stuff like that. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyed the film. I would say go see it. It's a well-made movie. It's not absolutely perfect or anything. Jason Reitman certainly has made better films than this, but um, I feel like if you're in for the chaos, if you're in for the fun of it, if you're in to kind of learn more about this time in history of this night that was truly chaotic, leading up to something that was historically big for television, I think it's worth checking out. Like I said, a couple negatives along the way. It's not perfect, but it's an intentionally chaotic good time that I personally had a lot of fun with. Don't know if it'll be my best of the year or anything like that, but 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyed Saturday Night. I recommend seeing it.